Brought to you by Black Mafia Podcast.
Hello, Richard, or Rich, as I've just said to you.
Hello,
How are
mate.
you, Rich? You all right?
You can call me Rich. Yeah, I'm good
Okay.
today. I'm ready to go.
Okay, then. Cool. Well, we might as well go all the way back to when you was born, and I'd just like to know where you was born and who were your mum and dad, and
Right. So I was born in Hayes Town, which is near Heathrow, and that was in 1967. And my mum and dad were, my mum's still alive. My dad, who's gone now, Harry, and my mum, June. And I was the youngest of four, 2 boys, 2 girls. I was the youngest. And by quite a distance. My brother was the next one up to me, and he was 14 when I was born. So,
wow.
Yeah, I know. So that skewed my whole childhood there, because by the time I reached 7, I was living in the house on my own with my mum and dad. So I was an only child from the age of 7 onwards. And the main reason for that is that my eldest sister got married and moved a bit away, like an hour's drive away. But my other sister, Evelyn, she moved to Los Angeles because her husband worked in the film game, and he was trying to crack Hollywood. And my brother did the thing. Do you remember that scheme that had the nickname £10 Poms? And they were the English guys that went in the 70s. And I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but I've always had it in my mind that they'd pay a low fare to get out there as long as they stayed out there for 2 years or something like that. And my brother was an electrician, so they were crying out for tradesmen at the time. So 1974, I'm 7 years old. My eldest sister has moved out, and then my other 2 siblings disappeared to the other side of the world. And there I am. Now I'm the only kid.
On your own, yeah. So okay. So from the age of 7, you've obviously started school. So how was school and the people you was at school with, and mum and dad, because you was the only one left there?
Yeah. Well, I mean, from a school point of view, I'm like the textbook definition of the kid that should have tried harder. If I hadn't been so lazy, I'd have probably done really well from a qualifications point of view, because academically I can do it. It's just I'm lazy, like a lot of people, don't focus, don't knuckle down and get on with the work. And
well, there's a modern word for that now. It's procrastination, and they even say that the kids can get it. Whether that's just the modern terminology, and actually you have nailed it. It's laziness.
It really is. I mean, my mum, she basically, I'm going to say the word accused, but it wasn't like she went up there and shouted at anybody. But she got it in her head that the reason I wasn't doing well at school was because the school wasn't challenging enough for me. I was too smart for that school, you see. And all that was a bloody get out of jail card for me.
Yeah, of course it was. Yeah.
So, and my dad, I joke about it, but I don't even think my dad knew which school I went to. He was just not involved, absolutely not involved in that side of it at all.
So what did he do for a living, Dad?
He was a rigger in the film game. Now, they put sets together, so he did a lot of scaffolding and a lot of construction. So you'd go into the sound stage and they'd need to build a castle, or a massive treehouse or whatever the set had to be. And he was working on films and adverts all the time. He seemed to be always busy, always doing something. The phone was always ringing. He was a freelancer, so he was self-employed, like they nearly all were. Pinewood. studios had gone union, so that was like you had a job and they dished it out. But if you worked at places like Elstree or Bray Studios or anywhere like that, they would, you know, you were self-employed, the phone would ring and it'd be like, right, I've got an 8-day job, can you do it? And then, you know, then the ball was rolling. So that's what my dad did. So it was all very manual labor, you know, putting together, like I say, scaffolding. He was always very, I mean, he was like a short, wide, strong bloke, you know, physically strong. But the downside of that was that he wasn't great academically. So, you know, he was quite intimidated, I think, by anyone who wanted to have a decent conversation with him, including me. You know, so it was like growing up in a house with a stranger.
Wow.
So
what about mom then? She was hands-on with you, you know.
Oh,
was she the like, was she the homemaker then, I take it? Because of
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
She was what we used to call a housewife. You know, she was very house proud about, you know, everything had to be in the right place, everything had to look right. God forbid anything.
Okay. So how was school and friends and things? Was it all right? Was the school okay to go to? Was it, you know, was it? Yeah.
It was a decent school. I went to school. So, right, we grew up, I was born in Hayes, but then quickly we whizzed through this bit. So having a fourth child meant that the family was too big for the council house that we lived in. So they relocated us and we went from Hayes Town in a terraced house. I don't know. I have no memory of it. But we went to a 3-bedroom semi-detached house in a place called Eastcote, which is in northwest London. And, you know, it was really nice and was in a Tory area. Then the school I went to was a Christian Church of England school. And by then Thatcher had got in. So I was living in a Tory area in a Church of England school with a Thatcher government. So everything was, you know, everything was funded. I've got no memories of going without, let's put it that way. Dad was earning decent money, so, you know, we were going on holiday or we'd do stuff at the weekend, you know. I don't remember there being any trauma at school. It was just, I was just bloody lazy. That's the bottom line.
So, okay, then we're going to go forward a little bit. You get to sort of your last year at school. What made you decide to go into the military?
Well, that was another bizarre little set of circumstances. My best mate, Mark, lived opposite me. He was a year older, so he's in the next year up. And he said to me one day, "Do you want a day off school?" Well, that's all I needed to hear. Yes. And he went, "Well, tomorrow I've got my interview at the Army Careers in Wembley. Why don't you tell them you're coming with me and then come along and we'll just go into London and, like, you know, for a DOS or whatever." So we went, and back in those days with the IRA very active, you had to knock on the door. I'm sure it was the same when you went to it. You have to knock on the door and they'd let you in. And my mate Mark said to me, "If you get to the door and he wants to know what you want, just say you're thinking of joining. And when I come out of my interview, just say, no, not for me. And we'll crack on, you know, and go and do something else." As it went, he went in for his interview with this careers sergeant, recruitment sergeant, whatever they call them. And I'm sitting in a room with brochures all around the walls for all the different corps and the different regiments. And my memory of it is it was like picking a car. You know, you like just take them down and have a look. And there was one there for the light division. And there were blokes on patrol in Cyprus on the front cover. I can see it in my mind's eye now. And you know, like, I'd grown up watching war films, you know, blokes running around with rifles. I mean, you know, when they do a film about the war, unless it's a carry-on film, it's not usually about the catering corps, is it?
That's right, yeah.
And so looking at this brochure was like, this is real soldiering from my childlike war movie thinking. So when this guy, this sergeant, brings my mate out and he goes, have you seen anything that interests you? And I held up this light division brochure and I went, this looks interesting, or words to that effect. And the next thing I know, Mark's in the waiting room and I'm now in the room, you know,
the
and we've
senior coming,
started. Yeah, well, I know, they've got me. And we started the paperwork and we're like, you know, filling out forms and all sorts. And I was 16, I was probably 15 at the time. Yeah, 15. I was 16 in the April. I think that was earlier than that. Anyway, and there you go. And when I got home, I said to my mum, and she loves, well, not so much these days, but she loved telling this one, that I got home and I said, oh, Mum, I know what I'm going to do when I leave school. Oh, fantastic. What? And I went, join the army. And she went, oh, shut up. You have never followed a rule in your life. You know, what the hell are you going to do in the bloody army? Shut up. So that was how it came to be. The next thing you know, like all of us, I'm in Solihull at the selection centre, you know, managed to start a fight there. So got off to a great start, you know. There was a room, we were being shown all these films and stuff like that and slideshows. And there were people there that were going to be trying out for all sorts of different regiments. And there was a gap between the chairs down the middle. And I don't know what I did, but somehow I managed to start a row between the people on the left side and the people on the right side. And it turned into a few punches being thrown, not by me. Of course, I just started it and then stepped back. But then the bloody recruiting sergeants that were running it are in the room like, what the fuck are you doing? You know, and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, so selection and then training, and there you go.
Yeah. So
and that's when me and you met.
Yeah, we did, because I was the platoon ahead of you by about 8 weeks, I think it was. That's all.
What were you in, Kahima or something?
Alamein platoon, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There was only, I think there was only 2 of us from my platoon that went to the 3rd Battalion. It was me and Phil Pike.
Yeah, I know Phil quite well.
Yeah. So anyway, you did your training, and just for the viewer, it's about a year's training, isn't it? And just for the viewer, the viewer will be looking at a picture of before you join the military and one just as you passed out. So if you can just imagine them having a good laugh now, you know?
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, go on. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, so you did the year's training, and they're tried and tested. They got 500 years. They know what to feed you and how to get you fit. So you end up in, it was Germany, wasn't it?
Yeah.
When you passed out,
Yeah, 3rd Battalion out in Celle. And just going back to training, I was going to say to you that training was really what shaped everything going forward in my life, everything. Because I've never considered myself to be like a tough person. I'm not handy. I don't like throwing punches at people. You know, I'm just not, I've never thought of myself as being like a tough person. But I think in that environment, the people who got through it were the ones who could show the resolve, you know, the force of will almost to say, I'm not going to be beaten. And there was me and Richard Goodhead that you probably remember, who sadly has died in the late 80s or the early 90s. And me and him were in the same section, and we came in for special scrutiny by our training corporal, who basically made us his project. And me and Goodhead got through training by laughing And the more we laughed, the more they tortured us, and the more they tortured us, the more we laughed, because we didn't know what else to do. I don't think,
Well, you had a bit of a, if I remember rightly, you had a really good professional NCO in charge of you.
Yeah, definitely. Clive Muspratt was a 3rd Battalion guy. When he finished at the training depot, he never came back to the battalion. He transferred to the paras because he was interested in parachuting, And so I mean, the day we passed out, I never saw him ever again.
Which, but obviously, it toughened you up and it made you something that you didn't think was possible. And you joined the battalion in Germany, a little town called Celle.
Yeah.
And take it away, bruv. So what was it like?
Well, I mean, going from training to being in the battalion is a bit like when you're the big kid in junior school and then you make the step up to senior school and all of a sudden you're the little kid again. And of course, you're walking around with your beret in training, and then you got the crow coming in, the new platoons and all that. And you're like, oh, look at them. They've got their berets, and all that. And you think you're Billy Big Banana. And then you go to the battalion and that's like making a step up from young offenders to bloody maximum security. And Jesus Christ, wasn't that a wake up call?
It was.
I remember me and Dave Hall thinking we were, the bee's knees and mouthing off to the wrong bloke. And the next thing we got battered in a bloody Remy garage with a load of 4-tonners in there. And my memory of that is, I mean, I got clouted and went down like a fucking sack of shit. Dave Hall, I can just, in my mind's eye, I can see him being grabbed by the scruff of the neck, nutted, going down and trying to crawl under a bloody 4-ton truck. And the bloke who was doing the smacking, and I won't say his name, because there's no point really. He's dragging Dave Hall out by the ankles so he can get at him, It was just fucking mad. We were like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Anyway, but we mouthed off, and there we were. We got what we got.
Yeah. The thing I found with like joining the battalion was the fact that, there was riflemen in some of the rifle companies who were like 24 years of age, and I'm like 17 and a half, 18.
Yeah.
And like they're full on grown men and they've been a rifleman in the battalion for 4 years, and you just didn't know what to say or do, did you?
I know. Because when you're young, people who are a few years older than you can seem a lot older than you.
Yeah.
I mean, I found out the other day, I think, he'll correct me if he sees this. I think that Mark Westbrook, who I worked for in HQ at the tail end of my time, he's only 10 years older than me, but he seemed like a pucker grown up, and there I was, a little kid.
Yeah. And it was all the drinking culture. How was the drinking for you, Rich?
Well, I embraced it wholeheartedly. I got right into it to quite a degree. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, look, we were kids, and all of a sudden we're out in a place where you can go to a nightclub. Are you mental? I've never been to one of them in my life, We sneaked into the pub every now and again. All of a sudden we're going to clubs 4 times a week.
And coming out in the morning when it's light and getting back to camp for a 3-mile run, and you're still pissed off.
I know there's that old line that we come out with, that the front of the run would be sweating out all the beer, and the back of the run was running through a cloud of beer sweat.
That's right, yeah.
Which was fucking grim. But it was just go on.
No, I just it's bringing memories back for me. It's like, and when I was skint, I would go into town and go to the local German hospital and give blood, and they used to pay you enough money to go and get a crate of beer.
I never heard about that one. Lucky I never
Yeah.
heard about it.
Yeah, I was always giving blood.
I always thought they should have paid us weekly, because they paid us monthly and we blew the lot, you know, in like 7 days, and then you've got the rest of the month to survive. And I think they should have paid us weekly, really, because otherwise, well, you know, it doesn't make for good money management if you're a young pisshead and you know all you want to do is finish work and get down to town, you know.
So after Germany, right, you did a couple of years in Germany. So where did you go then after then?
Well, I left when we were in Colchester, so I did just do the 3 years. And, you know, for a short period of time, I was a bit embarrassed by that, you know, that I'd just done the minimum and then called it a day. But I've spoken to quite a few blokes that I respect as, you know, soldiers, who said, oh, no, I did 3, or I just did 3.5 and signed off, or whatever, you know. It wasn't for me. I wasn't really enjoying it. I'd come to the attention of a sergeant major, and again, I'm not going to bother saying names and all that, but he decided I was on his shit list. And so every shitty bloody detail that came up, or duty, my name was on the list. And it didn't make for a very good final chapter, to be honest. And I wonder if it hadn't have gone like that, I probably would have stayed.
I think, to be fair to you, though, you probably ended up doing about 4.5 years with the junior training, or maybe 4 years.
Yeah, you do. You start.
Your service didn't start till 18, so you know you're looking at 4.5 years, really.
Exactly. Yeah, I was 16 years and 4 months old when I started training. You know, and then you don't sign on until another year and 8 months later. 18 months later? No, 20 months later. That can't be it, surely.
No, 18 months. It is. So you didn't do your 3 years until the 18 months. So it was 4 years and 8 months. So it's quite a while, you know, Rich, when you think about it.
It is, definitely, you know. And I mean, you know, I didn't have a big historical military background and all that. As I've told you, you know, joining the army was almost a bit of a, oh, go on then, you know. Yeah. Do you want to join the army? Yeah, all right. Why not?
Yeah,
you know?
See you coming. Yeah, because you are quite unique like that. Because a lot of us did have our dads or our brothers or grandfathers, but as you say, you came from a family that really didn't think about it or do it. So kudos to you for doing it, you know. And you've just said about the 3 years, and you felt a bit. There was lots of people that just joined up for free. I think for a lot of people, it wasn't an escape from home or their circumstances, you know. And it doesn't matter if it was 3 or 22. You know, you left home, you took the Queen's shilling, you went through training, which as an infantier, it's hard. It's really hard, isn't it? You know yourself, and you come out the other side. So fair play to you.
Toughest thing I've ever seen. I mean, you know, nothing in life. Yeah. Imagine that, 16-year-old kid, nothing prepared anyone for that. And then you're in it. And I mean, you know, I'm sure, you know, if I could watch it all again as a movie, I'm sure that they kind of like ease you in, but it didn't feel like that. It felt like it was hit the ground running, you know, and keep up or get fucked, basically.
Yeah, basically.
So,
like even back then, you know, the standard was really high, wasn't it? I mean, I remember my platoon had 49 at the start, and when we passed out, we had 13 in our platoon. You know, and then 13, and the platoon upstairs and us, we had to come together on the parade square to pass out.
I remember that happening, you know. I think we started with 48 and ended up with 24, I think.
Yeah.
I was talking about one of the lads the other day who didn't make it, and the reason I was talking about it was we were watching Celebrity SAS because Troy Deeney was on it. You know, he used to be a Watford player, so I was interested. And Troy Deeney flaked out in the gas chamber, and I was a little bit like disappointed with him that he couldn't handle it. And then that ended up with me telling Liz, my missus, about this lad called Walker that was in our training platoon. He was an LI lad from fuck knows where, up north somewhere. And that could be Birmingham, by the way. I don't know. Anywhere slightly north is up north if you're from North London. Anyway, he basically lost it in the fucking gas chamber. Absolutely lost it. And he was gone within 48 hours. He was just an empty bed space. You know, it was amazing, really, how you could become pally with people and then they're gone. You know,
that's right. Yeah.
Like the mafia.
Yeah. So I'm going to rush you on a little bit, only because of time. But so you leave the military in Colchester, and it's I think we're coming up to like the late 80s.
Yes, indeed, 88.
Yeah. So what did you go and do? I mean, was there a big transition, or did you fall on your face, or was it smooth?
Well, because I hadn't been in long enough for a relocation course, it was just kind of like one day you're a squaddy and the next day you're not. So I went home, and I'd been at home for about a week and a half, and my mum said to me, well, you better get a job. You can't sit around here all the time. And so I went down to the local job centre, and they said, oh, is there anything you're interested in? And I didn't have a clue, basically. And one of them, I don't know how it came about, but the next thing I know, I'm enrolling in these adult education courses to learn how to be a mainframe computer operator and learn how to code and write, you know, programs and things like that. I have no idea how that happened. It's another thing that I just got swept along with it. And I got swept along joining the army. I got swept along leaving the army, and then I got swept along with this bloody adult education course. So I went for 2 or 3 months, I can't remember which, to a place in Hammersmith, and we were in a classroom all day, every day, learning things, and it all just stuck, you know. Whereas when I was at school, I was lazy and unfocused. In this, I found something that not only did I find it interesting, but I completely switched on to it, and I understood what they were talking about and trying to achieve. And then at the end of that course, part of it was that they'd get you set up with a few interviews. So I was living still with my mum and dad. I went for an interview at a place in St Albans, a place called the United Glass. Guess what they made? Go on. Anyway, so that was like a massive glass manufacturer.
Oh dear.
I know, and I ended up being there. I was only there for 15 months. Did really well, you know, learned a lot, got a lot of exposure to the workplace and what it was actually like, you know, because it's like learning to drive. You learn to drive and then you really learn to drive. So I'd learned the technical side of what I was doing, and then I learned how to apply it. And so 15 months later, I actually left there and ended up at Ladbrokes in North London, and spent the next 12 years at Ladbrokes going through various roles within the company, starting off as a computer.
Was you working in a betting shop, or was it like an office?
No, head office.
Oh, right, yeah.
So, but within that head office was everything. They had like every facet of a company, plus they had a studio in there. You know, they were broadcasting to the shops and all this kind of stuff. So I went through the rank structure, if you want to look at it like that, within that ops department. So operator, senior operator, shift leader. And then after that, I became what's called an operations analyst. which is where you're more involved with the analytical, I suppose it's obvious, the analytical side of the operation. So you're ensuring that the services and the systems are available. And then after that, I got into doing what's called service delivery management. And within that, I was basically running the team, a team of about 5 of us, me and 5 others. And it was our job to ensure that the IT and telephony was in place for the whole head office and betting shop estate, and all that kind of stuff. So all the shops, I can't remember how many shops Ladbrokes had, but we had about 50,000 shop staff. So there was probably about 10,000 shops out there and things like that. And then I got bored there. So the word redundancy came up, and I put my hand up and said, what's the redundancy package like? And the next thing you know, after 12 years, I left with a nice sum, but I was out. And then another journey begins, and it's been like that basically since then.
Yeah. Just for the viewer, and I hope I'm not putting you on the spot, but in the last few years, you've suffered a bit of health problems, haven't you, Rich?
Yeah, just a bit. To be honest, I kind of I'd gone round that, but not for any reason. It was just we didn't stop for it. So left the army in 88, started at Ladbrokes in 93 when I was 26 years old. Yeah, born in 67. 1993 when I was 26 years old. I went to bed one night and I was absolutely fine. And when I woke up in the morning, I had double vision. And it was really strange, and I went and had like my eyes checked and all that, and ended up in the ophthalmological department in Watford General and all this kind of stuff. And then it all started to kind of wear off. And I was saying to, I think it was you actually, a little while ago, that my GP at the time was a really lovely bloke, but he wasn't at all proactive. So every now and again, I'd have some problem, like, out of nowhere, the tips of my fingers on my left hand would go numb. Or I woke up one day and it was like I'd had a dental injection and the whole side of my face was numb. And I went to see my GP about it, and you'd like ring up on a Monday and get a bloody appointment for the following Tuesday. And by the time I got in front of him, I'd go, this has happened. And he was a really lovely bloke, but he wasn't proactive. So he'd just go, oh, well, you have nervy issues, don't you? Well, yeah, I suppose I do. I'm not a doctor. What am I going to do? I haven't got any real experience. Anyway, so I fell into a hole then and spent the next 11 years, 11, not knowing what was wrong with me. I was convinced my eldest sister had a brain tumor removed in 1990. And I was absolutely convinced I had a brain tumor, or I had a heart condition, or I'd had a stroke or something like that. So I was absolutely convinced I was dying, and I was having panic attacks and, not being able to sleep, thinking if I shut my eyes, I'd never open them again. All that. That was horrible. That was a really rotten time. And then eventually, 11 years later, so 1993, fast forward to 2004, I've left Ladbrokes by then. I'm working for a big service management company called EDS, a big American company. And they sent me to see a neurologist because my walking was strange. It was like I was dragging my left foot a little bit. I couldn't lift my left foot properly, which turns out to be classic MS. And anyway, so they put me in front of a neurologist who got me to have an MRI. And within moments of seeing the results, he went, right, well, this is what it is. And it's MS, multiple sclerosis, which is an autoimmune condition where my immune system thinks that the if you picture a wire with the plastic casing on a wire, in our bodies, every nerve has a sheath around it called myelin. And for some reason, people who have MS, their immune system thinks this myelin is an enemy, so starts eating it. And so your wiring gets exposed. So your signal continuity, or not continuity, that's not the right word. I can't think what the word is, but basically the signals aren't traveling properly. So that's when the breakdown happens, and you'll have a period of no activity. Then there'll be like an abrupt bad thing happens. That will hang around for an indeterminate amount of time, but then wear off, but never quite go back to where it was. So you're always going up, like you'll say I'm trying to see if you can see me. So you're here, nothing happens, then you have a problem, and then it sticks around, but then it wears off, but never quite to the full. Then you go along again, and then you come up here and you have another problem. And this here, I don't know if this is making sense, is your line of disability. So here we are now. It's 2004. I've just been told that I've got this condition. And in a way, it was a relief, because I was absolutely convinced I was dying. I'm not a doctor. Why has my arm suddenly stopped moving the way it should? Things like that. It was bizarre.
So can I ask you, does it get worse over time?
Yes, it's a progressive condition and there's no cure.
Right.
The only things they can ever do for you is to slow down the progression of it using disease modifying drugs. So I did a couple of years on a thing called interferon, which I'd inject myself at home. It was like having, you remember the EpiPens that we used to have in the army?
For the NBC,
with that fucking knitting needle thing that shoot into your leg. It was like that, but with a much nicer needle. So I'd have to like inject myself 3 times a week with these things using a pen. And then, but the trouble with that drug is that eventually you develop an immunity to the drug. So you might as well be injecting yourself with water. It's just not going to do anything. So they moved.
And how did you feel yourself, like in here? I mean, as you're going on, on this little journey at the time.
Yeah.
And obviously you're taking this prescribed drug to try and help the symptoms.
Yeah.
How did it play out for you as a person?
Well, at first I didn't do very well dealing with it. It's pretty crushing news to find out you've got something like that going on, even though you're glad you haven't had a stroke and you haven't got a brain tumor and all the other things you've imagined. To be told you have a lifelong chronic condition with no cure, that they don't even know why it happens, it just happens to 1 in 1,000 people. You're like, I don't know, it's just because there's a lot that goes along. This is where the trauma lies. This is probably why I'm talking to you, is because that's where the trauma lies within it, is the guilt that you carry around because of the knock-on effects of your condition. I'm sure there's guys out there from our military time who have been injured, survived, but been altered, so badly that they feel the pain it causes their families, and there's a lot of guilt involved. That was one thing that took me a long time to get used to, was the amount of guilt I felt about being ill. It would eat me up, especially the most mundane things like, Liz rushing to put out the bloody bins on a Sunday night. I used to do that, and and then all of a sudden I can't, and anything that dropped off my list had to go somewhere, so it went on her list. And the guilt is crushing. It really is. It's really upsetting, but this is what it does to you, unfortunately. Anyway, so then I spent 12 years on a drug that basically paused it, and I never had anything new, and I kind of got used to where I was. Then they changed my drugs for about 4 months, and I fell into a hole, metaphorically, obviously. And then I had some damage go on, and that was that's bad, and it hasn't gone away, to be honest. So I'm back on my original drug now, and my condition has paused again. But it was like pause for 12 years, dropped off a cliff, start the drug again and pause it again. But where I dropped off a cliff, unfortunately, that hasn't all come back. So I'm weak as a kitten down my left side. My bicep in my left arm is shortened because I'm not using it properly. My vision's a bit askew, and I mean, the mobility is the one that gets me, because it's like that thing of if the remote control is left on the other couch, well, that might as well be on the other side of the planet. That kind of like tiny little detail. So, it's been a lot to get used to. Can I just tell you a little thing about when I first started reconnecting with guys from the battalion? So Facebook comes along, and one of the lads I was working with at the time, you've got to get on Facebook. It's brilliant. So I signed up for it, and then back in those days, Facebook would email you if someone you knew had updated something, So I'd be getting emails about people I barely knew in my life doing things that I wasn't at all interested in. It was like, some of the shit we talk about now, it can be as low level as what you had for lunch, At the time, that was so weird, to be like, what, really? Do I need to know this? So I gave it the elbow anyway. And then one day I'd resurrected my account, and all of a sudden one day Steve Fairs adds me to Facebook. And I had never thought for one moment to look for anyone from the army. Steve Fairs adds me, and I'm going through his list, and I'm going, I know him, and all of a sudden I've got like 150 blokes in my list that I haven't seen since 1988. And that point was when I really reconnected with people from the battalion. And that was a journey in itself.
It is. And it's also, it's trying to register all the memories and trying to register, because, none of us get on with everybody, and it's trying to register. All right, that happened then. Is that worth keeping it going? And I'm older and wiser, and I'm more in the centre, and I'm not that side or that side anymore. And it's a lot to take on, isn't it?
Well, there were a couple of folks who added me, and I was like, mate, I didn't like you that much when we were in. So,
at least you told the truth.
So I'm not going to like spend time chatting with these people, But I was not in a good place at that point. On one occasion, I actually bought tickets to see the rifles. I don't know if it was the rifles at that point, but the band and bugles of our former regiment. And it was at the Royal Albert Hall. And the day before the event, I bottled it and didn't go. And the reason was because I felt embarrassed about my physical situation, that I was using a walking stick or a wheelchair, I couldn't move. To go back to a world where you're so judged on your physical prowess, slim dirch, fast dirch, all that, you can't run, you can't fucking do anything. And so I bottled it. And then I told Harry Barrage about bottling it, and he wrote me the most heartfelt message that day about how no one judges anyone. You know, blokes turn up at do's and they've got like one leg because the other one got blown off, you know, and all this kind of stuff. And that was a real moment for me. That gave me the confidence to go to the next thing. And then the next thing I went to was, remember the Soldier F March that happened in London from the guy, the para that was being prosecuted.
Bless him. He passed away as well, didn't he, eventually? Didn't he? I'm sure he did.
I honestly don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
So I went
he
up
was an ex-para, wasn't he?
He was, I went up to Horse Guards and I met up with people, and that was some of them. It was the first time I'd seen them in a long time, well, since I left the army. And everyone was just so welcoming and friendly, you know, and it was brilliant. And from that moment onwards, I've been very active in the reunion, you know, stuff that's going on, organised some of the ones myself, go to other people's, you know, just really, really got back into it, loved reconnecting with people.
Yeah. I think from where I'm sitting, and I think I've been friends with you, obviously, back in the day, but in modern terms, since about 2014, I think, something like that.
Right.
A good 10 years.
Yeah.
And you've always been a catalyst for everybody else. You're the one that's pushing the boat out, trying to get people together, which is a good thing. You know, I'm not knocking it, but there is a lot of us out there that are still, I don't know. And by you just saying about Harry and that it pushed you forward, there's still a lot that haven't gone to reunions. I mean, I haven't done a reunion yet, and yet I've got the confidence to sit on here and try my best doing this. But I've got to get to reunion because there's so many people. I mean, I was quite lucky that I did a number of years, and I went through so many people I know, and yet it's almost like, oh, I don't know, you know, it's that wall to get over, isn't it?
My first reunion I went to at Winchester, I was so nervous, so utterly nervous. I was like, it was almost like feeling like a child again. And Liz drove me, and Daniel was with us in the car, you know, our son. And I don't know how old he was then. It would have been about 2015 or maybe 2014. And we pulled up outside the barracks, and I just glanced over to my left, and I saw Leon Bailey there, you know, Brummy Leon Bailey.
Yeah.
Can be quite an imposing character. And I
went it was Punchy Bailey, wasn't it?
And I didn't really have much to do with him in the battalions. We weren't in the same platoons or anything, but I was aware of him. Right. Anyway, I said to Liz, I went, oh, bloody hell, there's Leon Bailey. Liz gets out of the car and goes, oh, I'll see if he knows how we go about getting in here. And just like marches over to bloody Leon Bailey. And I'm going, no, come back. Because he was like, fucking hell, of all the people to choose, you know. I don't know what I thought was going to happen. You know, she was going to go over there, say something out of turn and get smacked, you know, or something like that. Obviously not. But the next thing I know, she walks back, Leon Bailey's with her. He leans through the window, has a chat, shakes me hand. And it was like, it was another moment where I just thought, this is doable, you know, I can do this. And then I'm in the barracks, and I've got people coming up to me that I barely remember, and they're like, you know, chatting away and all that. I can remember one bloke came over and started chatting. To this day, I've got no clue who he was. He asked me, he knew my name. He asked me how I was, what I'm up to, got any kids, where do you work? You know, where are you living? Shook my hand, grabbed me, hugged me, and then walked off. I've literally no idea who that was. Absolutely no idea. But I just felt so welcomed. And going back to talking about reunions that I've organised, it's really easy. You just, the most difficult thing is getting people like Dodds and Gary Hayes to actually give you a date that they can make.
honestly.
Oh, fucking honestly, mate, talk about infuriating, those two. Anyway, but one of the lads that I work with, we were out having a Chinese meal, a load of us that I'd organised, and he goes, "Oh, you're really good at this, aren't you? You're really good at all this organising." And I said to him, "Well, my secret is I just choose things I want to do and the people I want to do it with, and I just make it happen, start the ball rolling." Most people are sociable, but not all people are the ones who are going to send the first message about something,
Yeah.
So that's what I find. But then it is about trying to get Dodds to bloody respond to a message is unbelievably difficult. Anyway.
I don't know what. Dodds, I know you're going to watch this. I love you to death, but I must be in the rich camp here. You are to pin down, but I will say it's not personal.
No, of course not. But it can be infuriating, that's for sure. Anyway, so
but going back to that, I will do one for myself. I've got to get to one. I have been very lucky that I must have in the last 30 years, I must have bumped into about 50 riflemen in Birmingham.
Really?
I mean, I've bumped into Black Willie, Black Hutchie. I've bumped into Willie, the ex-bugler, and then our company, Leon Bailey. I've bumped into him in Birmingham. Creswell. Oh, there's been so many I've bumped into just randomly, whether you're in a shop or you go in a pub and you go, oh my God, it's, so I've been lucky like that, but actually going to an event, I've got to cross that bridge. Yeah, I've got it.
The thing is, it's not like overwhelming or anything like that. I can understand your apprehension, but it is not overwhelming. And 10 minutes in, it's like you've been off for the weekend.
I know,
It really is.
I can imagine,
Just going back to the first reunion thing I got involved with, I contacted some guys that I was in 2 platoon with, and it ended up just around my house, 5 of us sitting here in the living room one afternoon, and it was me, Spud Edwards, Greg Antioch, Sean Blythe, and Greg Ward from Birmingham. And they just came round, and we had a couple of beers each, a cup of tea each, had a good chat, and that was that. That was it. And it was so low level. It was brilliant. It really was. Taught me a lot that day. Anyway.
No, well done. Kudos to you for getting it up and running. And like, I do know that you do a regular event now down in London every year, and it's getting bigger and bigger, isn't it?
Well, to be honest, it is, but also it isn't. So on the first one we had, there was about 25 of us there, and it was brilliant, honestly. To look down a table and see at the end there was Blithers and Tony Duffield and Greg Antioch. And I've got a picture of those 3 at the end of a table in the Cellar Naffy bar. And to look down that table and see them all there laughing and joking, wow, talk about a sense of satisfaction. Not like a smug sense of satisfaction, oh, aren't I fucking great? But just like to know that, this is happening and we can all do it, to some of these people. When I got Dave Mann back, well, say me, it was me and Paddy White got Martin. We got Dave Mann back, and he'd left the army in 87 and dropped off the planet. And no one had seen him. Yeah, he left when we were in Colchester, and no one knew anything, to the point where I was like getting in touch with people that ran companies in the Colchester area, because we heard a rumor that that's where he was living, and it turns out he was. And so to finally land Dave, if you're watching this, mate, I know I talk about you like you're the white whale, mate, but so the day we landed you, mate, was just unbelievable. I thought, if I can do this, I can do anything,
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
not? What's next? Next one's Dennis Curry, Kid Curry from Anti-Tanks. Can't find him though. Not at the moment.
Yeah.
But one day, you never know.
Yeah. You never know. Look, Rich, it's been an absolute pleasure. Believe it or not, we have done an hour. And
I know, I'm looking at the time flicking by.
It's just gone like that. It's been amazing. Look,
Can I just say
ask you.
One sec, can I dab one thing? So I was saying to you before we even started recording, I've watched a few of these sessions that you do with people, and they're talking about, trauma in their life and things like that. And I've thought, well, what am I going to talk about? If it's not about reunions and about my medical condition, I haven't really got much going on these days, So I do really appreciate you giving me an opportunity. I hope people who watch this do find it interesting. If you don't, please don't tell me. I'm too fragile to be told that I was boring.
Well,
whatever.
From where I'm sitting, what you've said about your condition and the I don't know whether to call it a struggle or a journey of your condition. Just listening to you makes me so. I really appreciate my own health, because listening to you, I haven't had that battle, and I'm not just being corny here. I take my hat off to you, because in your world that has been full on, and I know it's been full on the way you've told me, and you've lived with it all these years, and you're in a, like, if you don't mind me saying, you're in that wheelchair and it's a struggle. And you said about your TV remote. I don't know, you do it, bruv, and so I've got to take my hat off to you. And
it's funny, you just find ways of getting around things, and and
you adapt and overcome. Yeah,
exactly.
Of course.
I am sitting here at the moment in a wheelchair, but that's not
the battle you've had to go through to get to where you've got to today. Must have it's took all your will, it's took all your strength, and as you say, you feel guilty. I want to ask you one last question before we knock it on the head for now, because I think there is another podcast inside you, mate. Honestly, I do. If anyone is going through anything, what's your advice to them? What can you tell them about how you've done things?
Okay, so I have had to have counselling at times. And one of the counsellors did actually give, you cherry pick what you can out of something. So they'll tell you 20 things and you kind of like go, well, I can apply these 5. So you take them. The one that I'll never forget, and the one I know I told you about it recently, was this thing about, if you've got something in your life or something that's coming up and you're worrying about it, so you keep postponing it and pushing it back, all you're doing is giving it enough time or more time to become stronger as it approaches you. So it's like pushing dark clouds back, and they just build upon build upon build as they're moving towards you. So at the point that I started to understand that, I flipped my mindset, and instead of saying, that's a great idea, but here's all the reasons I can't do it, I started trying to find ways to get round stuff and make it happen. So I don't know. It's really easy. The thing is, the trouble with advice, sage advice, is it's really easy to dish it out, and it doesn't apply to everybody. In my case, if I don't do things and I put them off, I feel like I've robbed myself of an experience, especially when it comes to being back in touch with people. So I'm kind of like all guns blazing now, and I'll just I try and say yes more than I say no. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that.
And that's your lot.
Yeah, well, it's been a pleasure, and I've got utmost respect for you for coming on here and telling me a little bit about yourself and telling the viewer, because I do get some people that watch it, And thank you very much. And I'm going to end it here. And God bless you, brother, and get on with your life. And I hope it's okay.
Thanks, mate. And I hope to see you at one of the reunions soon. You can get a train straight down from Birmingham, and we always have them in a pub that's near Euston. So there you go.
There you go. Thank you.
Thanks, mate. You take care of yourself. Bye then.
At Match Patch, we believe individuality matters. Whether you are rocking a design that tells your story or you're uniting with a team that shares your passion. Match Patch, stay unique. Stay you.